Hey, I'm really glad you're here. Before we drift into this story, take a second to settle in. Maybe you're lying in bed right now, wrapped in a blanket. Maybe your eyes are already a little heavy. Maybe it's been a long day, and your thoughts just need somewhere calm to go. If that sounds like you, this is the right place. This is Boring History for Sleep. If you find comfort in slow stories and quiet facts, consider subscribing or leaving a like, just so you can find your way back next time. I'd love to know where in the world are you listening from, and what time is it there right now? If it's midnight or 3 a.m. or the middle of a lazy afternoon, I hope this space helps you soften everything for a while. Tonight's story is about something that shaped how people looked, how they felt, and how they were judged, but also something we rarely think about in the quiet hours: beauty. Or more specifically, why medieval beauty standards were ruthless and unattainable, and how those ideals carved themselves not only into portraits and poems, but into lives, skin, bones, and generations. Let's begin. The year is somewhere in the 1300s. Maybe it's France, or England, or the Holy Roman Empire. Maybe you're a woman of noble birth, not royalty, but enough to wear a corset and sit beside tapestries. Your morning doesn't begin with breakfast. It begins with the mirror, or rather, a piece of polished metal that reflects just enough. You look into it, searching not for your soul, but for flaws. Is your skin pale enough? Your forehead high enough? Are your eyebrows too thick? Because the ideal beauty of the time is not kindness, or intelligence, or laughter. It's control. Thinness, quietness, and a face that shows no sun. Tanned skin meant labor. Labor meant lower class. So to be beautiful meant to look like you'd never worked, never walked outside, never lived in the warmth. Women powdered their skin with ground lead. They plucked the hairline to make the forehead appear higher. Some even removed their eyelashes and brows entirely to look more ethereal, more otherworldly. Beauty was absence of color, of expression, of defiance. But what made these standards ruthless wasn't just their difficulty, it was their danger. That lead powder seeped into pores, causing sickness. That plucking invited infection. But they did it, day after day, because beauty was currency. And for many women, it was the only one they could use. A pale face could mean a better marriage, a higher dowry, a life with less hunger. So the mirror became more than reflection. It became a battlefield, and what it reflected was not always real. There were no photos, only paintings, and painters were kind to their patrons. They softened lines, lightened cheeks. They painted not as they saw, but as the world wanted them to see. That too shaped beauty. Imagine you're a girl of 12, watching your mother apply chalky white to her cheeks, watching her tilt her head just so. She tells you, "This is how we survive." You don't understand it yet, but you remember. You learn to sit still, to eat less, to smile only when asked. You learn that to be beautiful is to be invisible and visible all at once, to be looked at but not heard. In noble courts, men write sonnets about women whose skin glows like moonlight and whose hair flows like golden silk. But these poems weren't for the women. They were for other men. Proof of possession. Beauty as trophy. The women themselves had little say. And when a woman didn't fit that mold, she became invisible, or worse, mocked. A woman with dark skin, a woman with scars, a woman who laughed too loud. The world made her a warning. Don't be like her. That's how the system stayed strong, not only by praising the ideal, but by punishing everything outside it. These standards weren't just random. They were built on class, religion, power. Pale skin meant you didn't toil. Slender hands meant you hadn't scrubbed floors. Small feet meant you didn't walk far. The smaller your world, the more beautiful you were considered, and the more dangerous your freedom became. So beauty became a cage, one that looked delicate, even lovely, but it was still a cage. As you lie here listening, imagine that world. A world where every smile is measured, every glance weighed, where your reflection is not your own, but a reflection of someone else's expectations. It was real. And for many, it still is. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into what women did to meet those standards, how they altered their bodies, the tools, the rituals, the pain. But for now, let this be enough, a beginning, a glimpse, a soft step into a harsher world. Close your eyes if you'd like. Let your breath slow. We'll continue soon. Imagine waking up before dawn. The sun hasn't touched the sky yet. The room is cold. You pull on a shift of coarse linen. Your fingers are stiff. But before you eat, before you pray, before you even speak, you reach for the little box on your table. Inside, a comb of bone, a small metal hook, a bowl of crushed minerals, and a cloth that smells faintly of vinegar. These are not objects of luxury. They are tools, rituals, proof that even before the world sees you, you are already trying to become beautiful. If you are noble, you have servants who assist you. If you are not, you do it alone. You begin with your hair, not to style it, but to remove it. Beauty in this age means a smooth, expansive forehead, a sign of nobility, a canvas for stillness. You take the hook and pluck out strands slowly, methodically from your hairline, sometimes dozens, sometimes hundreds. Each tug stings. The skin reddens, but eventually the line recedes. The forehead grows. You do not cry. Pain is expected. Pain is part of the process. Eyebrows are next, a thin line or none at all. They distract, they say. They add too much character. So you pluck. Then the lashes. Strange to us now, but in the medieval imagination, lashes were linked with seduction. Too many and you were seen as wild, uncontrolled, so they too must go. Imagine staring at your reflection, now bare, blank, otherworldly. You do not see yourself. You see what others have told you is acceptable. The bowl of white powder waits, a mix of ground lead and vinegar. You dab it on your skin, careful not to inhale. It burns slightly. You press it into your cheeks, your neck, your arms. Paleness is everything. It shows you are pure, untouched by the sun. The sun is for peasants. You must look like marble. If your hair is dark, you try to lighten it. A mixture of ash, lye, sometimes even urine, left on the scalp for hours, covered by a cloth, under the sun, if possible ironic, since your face must never tan. The smell is sharp, the effect uneven, but even a hint of gold is seen as angelic. You bind your waist. Not tightly, not yet, but enough to shrink your shape. Wide hips, full bellies, these are signs of fertility, but not always of grace. Grace in this world means control, slender arms, narrow shoulders, fragile wrists. You are not expected to be strong, you are expected to seem breakable, like porcelain, like scripture. Some girls bind their chests, especially if they grow too fast. Others eat less, or drink infusions of herbs to curb appetite. Hunger becomes a habit. The stomach shrinks, the voice quiets. A woman who eats little is seen as refined. A woman who is thin is praised, and if her eyes look hollow, if her energy fades swell, that too can be beautiful. Melancholy is romantic, sadness is poetic. You are encouraged not to glow, but to fade. And so you do, bit by bit. Your laughter softens, your gestures slow. You walk with your eyes down. You learn how to tilt your chin just slightly, how to smile without showing teeth, how to speak only when spoken to. In tapestries and paintings, women are shown in profile, their hands folded, their lips closed. That's the goal, to be an image, not a person. A woman in full bloom is a risk. A woman in submission is a success. And so, the hours pass. You finish your ritual. Your face is powdered, your brows erased, your skin pale, your lips unpainted. You wear a headdress that hides most of your hair, perhaps a veil that covers your neck. To be seen is dangerous, but to be invisible too invisible is worse. You must balance. A flash of ankle can be scandal. A flush of color can be disgrace. But too much modesty, and they'll say you're hiding something. So you watch others, you mimic. You study the lady at court who receives the most glances. You wonder what she does that you don't. Maybe it's the way she lowers her gaze, or the way she stands a step behind. You learn, you adapt, you erase. Over time, it becomes second nature. You no longer question why beauty hurts. You no longer ask who decided it should look this way. You just comply. Because questioning is rebellion, and rebellion is not beautiful. So you become what they want. Or try to. Some nights, you look in the mirror and barely recognize the face. Not because it has changed, but because it never belonged to you in the first place. It was always theirs. We'll continue in the next part, but for now, let that thought float gently. You are here. You are safe. Let the weight of all this fade into the background. Let your breath find its rhythm and rest. If you were a peasant woman in the Middle Ages, the rules were different, but only on the surface. You didn't have the luxury of lead powder or lemon rinses. You didn't pluck your hairline with gold tools or sip herbal teas to stay slender, but that didn't mean you were free. It only meant you were measured by another scale. While noble women fought to appear delicate and ghost-like, working-class women were judged by how well they could survive while pretending they hadn't suffered. Your skin was darker from the sun, your hands rough, your shoulders broad from carrying water and firewood. These were facts, but facts didn't protect you. Instead, they branded you. Less feminine and nay. Less worthy, less human. In the eyes of nobles, you were what they feared becoming. And so, even among the poor, ideals crept in. A girl might envy a neighbor's fairer skin, or wish her hair were lighter, longer, straighter. She might tuck wild curls into braids. She might scrub her hands with vinegar to soften the calluses. Because the dream of beauty wasn't just about appearance, it was about escape. To look different meant you might be noticed. And to be noticed meant maybe you could leave this place. Maybe marry up. Maybe be saved. Of course, most weren't. But the idea lingered. It kept women quiet, hungry, obedient. Religion, too, played its part. The church did not encourage vanity, but it reinforced obedience. It spoke of Eve, of temptation, of the dangers in a woman's glance. And so beauty became dangerous. If a woman was too pretty, she might be a distraction. If she was not pretty enough, she was forgettable. Either way, she was watched, judged, corrected. Monks wrote sermons warning against perfume, painted lips, flowing hair. They said the devil hid in rouge and ribbons. But nobles ignored them, publicly pious, privately adorned. Bishops blessed weddings where brides were painted and powdered. Hypocrisy dressed itself in robes. And so the message to women was clear. Be beautiful, but not too much. Be pleasing, but not proud. Be noticed, but not praised. Walk a line so thin it might disappear beneath your feet. If you stumble, it's your fault. If you succeed, it's their reward. That's what made the standards ruthless. They were never truly yours. They were gifts you gave to others. A smile to reassure a husband. A posture to please a father. A silence to soothe a court. Even when you stood still, you were performing. Even when you were alone, you were rehearsing. There was no finish line, only maintenance, only fear. And even beauty couldn't protect you. A noble woman with a pale face and golden hair could still be beaten, confined, discarded. Her value tied not to who she was, but how long she could uphold the illusion. When she aged, when she bled, when she dared to speak, then her beauty faded, and so did her safety. In paintings, she would be remembered with soft eyes and a tilted head. But in life, she might die nameless. A muse in theory, a prisoner in practice. The men who wrote poems rarely wrote names. The artists who painted lips didn't ask what they had spoken. And so the centuries passed. With each one, beauty changed slightly. New headdresses, new laces, new colors. But the heart of the standard remained: control, stillness, surrender. And all the while, young girls watched. They saw their mothers tighten corsets, cover scars, hide grays. They learned without words. that love was not enough, that worth was not given, that to survive you had to mold yourself into what the world demanded. Some resisted, quietly, with a laugh too loud, a dress too red, a gaze that didn't drop. But most, they bent, not because they were weak, but because they were tired, because they needed shelter, because being broken was sometimes safer than being whole. And so, night after night, century after century, women made themselves smaller. They faded in paintings, they whispered in hallways, they disappeared behind veils, not because they had nothing to say, but because the world never learned how to listen. As you lie here now, still and warm, perhaps you wonder how much has changed. Perhaps you feel some of it still. In mirrors, in magazines, in whispers. Let it go for now. Let the weight of centuries soften. Let the silence become comfort. Let your breath carry you out of that heavy stone room, out of that cold morning ritual, out of that mirror that never showed the truth. You are more than reflection. You are more than enough. Rest here. We will continue again soon. You are 12, maybe 13. Old enough to be watched, not yet old enough to understand why. Your mother takes you by the hand one morning, her voice soft but serious. She leads you to the basin. There's water in it. A comb. A cloth. And something else paste, pale and strange smelling. She doesn't explain. She doesn't need to. You kneel. She begins. First, your forehead. She pulls your hairline higher, plucking strand by strand. The pain is sharp, but she tells you to breathe. It's for your future, for marriage, for decency. She smooths the paste along your cheeks. It burns, just a little. You do not flinch. She nods in approval. You are learning. Afterward, she binds your hair, tight and neat. She adjusts the linen veil, positioning it exact strands showing. She steps back and sighs. That's better. You look less like a child, more like a girl who understands her place. You do not smile. Smiling stretches the mouth, makes you look bold. You fold your hands instead. You wait. Across Europe, rituals like this were everywhere. Some were gentle, most were not. In wealthier homes, girls were placed on strict regimens. Food was rationed, movement restricted. A lady must float, not stomp. Speak rarely, never argue. Laughter should be a whisper. And appetite, well, best not to show any. Not for food. Not for pleasure. Not for anything. In the name of beauty, girls were taught to disappear. But the process wasn't metaphorical. It was physical. Some wore tight bands across their chest to flatten it, to slow the signs of womanhood. Others wore stomachers rigid panels laced at the back, pressing the ribs inward. Some were made of wood, others of leather, worn day and night. They left bruises, made breathing difficult. But when laced tightly enough, they gave the illusion of fragility. A waist that could be circled by a man's hands, a shape that begged to be protected or possessed. The pain was constant, but it wasn't seen as punishment. It was seen as grace. Women who bore it without complaint were praised. A high tolerance for discomfort was a sign of virtue, of breeding, of faith. In some regions, chastity belts were worn not just to prevent, but to symbolize. A heavy ring around the waist, metal plates, locks and keys. Some were ceremonial, others were not. And though these devices were rare, the fear behind them was not. Girls were taught to fear their own bodies, to bind them, to shrink them, to deny them. Beauty became a form of suffering, and suffering became proof of goodness. Your feet might bleed, your head might ache, your lungs might struggle for air under a bodice, but if your reflection pleased others, it was worth it. Your pain was invisible. It had to be. Even posture was trained. Young girls walked with books on their heads, with hands behind their backs, with eyes cast downward. They practiced for hours, for days, until stillness was second nature, until their very presence became silence. The idea was not to be seen. It was to be displayed, like a tapestry, or a statue, or a relic. Not someone who breathes, but someone who is looked at, touched only when needed, and always careful not to speak too much. Some girls rebelled, quietly. They loosened their laces before bed. They laughed when no one watched. They ate berries in the woods with stained fingers. But even that was dangerous. If seen, it could mean ruin. A rumor could undo years of obedience. A glance too long could brand you forever. So most girls obeyed, out of fear, out of hope, out of love. Because they were told that good girls become good wives. And good wives are the ones who suffer in silence. Mothers passed down the rituals. Fathers nodded in approval. Priests spoke of purity. Artists painted angels with long necks and hollow cheeks. And girls bent to the mold, slowly, reluctantly, willingly. It wasn't always cruelty. Sometimes it was love. A mother wanting her daughter to marry well. A father wanting her to be safe. A world trying to protect her the only way it knew how, be making her disappear. But protection that requires erasure is still erasure. And love that demands suffering is still pain. Now, as you listen, far from those stone rooms and cold corridors, let yourself soften. You are not made to disappear. You are not made to shrink. Let the weight lift. Let your breath deepen. You are whole, and you are here. Let go of the bindings. Let go of the silence. Rest. We'll continue this journey, gently. Imagine a town where the bells ring not for weddings or feasts, but for the dead. A cart moves slowly down a narrow lane. Its wheels creak. Flies buzz. A man walks beside it, calling softly for the bodies. People stay indoors. Curtains drawn. Faces hidden. The plague has arrived, and with it, fear. And yet, even in this place, in this time of loss, the rules of beauty have not vanished. They've only shifted. In the years when plague swept through villages like fire through dry grass, the ideal woman changed. No longer pale and soft like milk. Now she must look healthy, robust, immune. Rosy cheeks became desirable not from makeup, but from fever. A glow meant life. Color meant circulation. Thinness, once prized, was now dangerous. Too slender, and they might think you were already sick. Or worse, contagious. And so, women pinched their cheeks to appear flushed, bit their lips before entering a room, rubbed herbs along their collarbones to give the illusion of warmth. It was beauty by survival, or at least the performance of it. The irony was cruel. Those who appeared healthiest were not always safe, but they looked the part. And in a world ruled by appearances, looking well could mean everything. Even the texture of skin was scrutinized. A few boils, a rash, a marked suspicion would follow. So women used veils, gloves, powdered their faces to hide blemishes, covered their hands with lace. Anything to appear untouched, pure, clean. But the truth was, no one was untouched. Death knocked on every door, noble or not. And still, the standards persisted. In wealthier homes, women turned to alchemy. They mixed mercury with rosewater, lead with vinegar. Eyed the concoctions at night, hoping to wake looking like porcelain. The chemicals burned, peeled, poisoned. But the illusion mattered more than the risk. Beauty became a mask of survival. Even illness could not unmake the obsession. In some places, the obsession deepened. Clerics wrote of women who adorned themselves even while mourning. Widows with painted lips, brides with waxed brows. Critics called it vanity. But often, it was desperation. A way to stay seen, to stay safe, to not disappear in the shadows of grief. Even mourning had its aesthetic. Black gowns, pale faces, silent grace. Women were expected to embody tragedy beautifully, their tears neat, their hair still pinned, their posture upright, even at funerals. Pain was always to be endured, never shown. And yet, pain shaped every mirror, every reflection. Across Europe, climates varied. In northern towns, pale skin meant you stayed indoors wealthy enough to avoid labor. In southern regions, the sun browned the skin. So new hierarchies formed. Pale girls covered themselves in cloaks, walked with parasols, drank vinegar to keep their flesh cool. In hot cities, perfumes masked sweat. In cold villages, oils softened cracked skin. Always the body was adjusted, altered, smoothed. Not for comfort but for others. Even hair adapted. Long tresses were braided, powdered, curled with heated rods. In humid places, women plucked stray strands daily. In dry air, they oiled their scalps with lavender. A woman was never just herself. She was always her reflection, her performance, her correction. Religious festivals shaped ideals too. During Lent, women removed jewelry, unbraided hair wore somber tones. But once Easter arrived, color returned. Ribbons, flowers, painted lids. And through it all, beauty remained, both sacred and suspect. Too much, and it was sin. Too little, and it was shame. The church walked a fine line, condemning vanity while worshiping art that depicted idealized saints. And who were these saints? Always glowing, always soft-eyed, always perfect. Even heaven had standards, and so earthly women tried to match them. Some carved crosses into their flesh. Some fasted until their bones ached. Some wept not from sorrow, but from the pressure to appear devout and beautiful doing it. Through plagues, through famines, through wars, the rules never truly vanished. They morphed, adapted, survived. Just like the women who bore them. You might wonder now, lying in your room, how much of that world remains. You might feel echoes in makeup aisles, in filters, in quiet comparisons. Let them pass. Let them fade with each breath. You are not here to perform. Not tonight. You are here to rest. And in rest, there is power. Let the centuries fall away. Let the mirrors fog. Let the silence wrap around you, soft and warm. We will continue soon, quietly. You're standing in a great hall, but you are not alone. All around you are statues. Not marble, but living. Women in brocade, in silk, in linen threaded with gold. Their necks long, their hands folded, not moving, not speaking. Just standing, watched, judged, whispered about. This is a royal court. And in courts, beauty is not a choice. It is policy. It is survival. If you are too plain, you will not be invited. If you are too bold, you will be noticed for the wrong reasons. Somewhere in the middle lies the perfect face, one shaped by rulers, not nature. Queens set trends with the arch of their brows. A princess's pale lips could cause 100 other women to stop tinting theirs. A duchess might wear blue velvet and suddenly, blue becomes the only color anyone wants. Monarchs decided what was elegant, what was decent, what was allowed, and the court copied. And the city copied the court. And the countryside copied the city. Until even the smallest farm girl knew how to part her hair like a noblewoman. The ripple was endless. Paintings played their part. In every portrait, the woman's features were softened, her cheeks lightened, her waist narrowed by fabric and brushstroke. These were not lies, they were ideals. The woman in the portrait was who she was supposed to be, even if she never looked like that in candlelight. Artists became arbiters of beauty. A high forehead, almond-shaped eyes, hair the color of wheat. They painted what the court adored, and the court adored what they painted. Writers followed suit. In poems, the beautiful woman was silent. She walked among roses. She waited. She wept delicately. Her beauty caused pain, but not to herself, to others. Men fought for her, wrote verses about her, lost sleep over the curve of her neck. But rarely did she speak. Rarely did she want. Her value was in being seen, not in being heard. This ideal seeped into everything. Into how women greeted one another, into how they sat, into how they grieved. Even mourning had rules. A widow must wear black, but not look disheveled. She must weep, but not sob. Her face must be pale, but not hollow. Her eyes must shimmer, but never swell. Grief became performance. So did love. So did aging. Older women had roles, too, but beauty remained their duty. A matron might be respected, but if she let herself go, she was whispered about, called careless, unladylike. So even at 50, 60, 70, some women still followed the rituals. The lotions, the fasts, the head coverings to hide thinning hair. Because aging was allowed if it was graceful, and graceful meant invisible. In the monasteries, a different beauty was praised, known of simplicity, modesty, purity. But even there, the rules were strict. Nuns shaved their heads, covered every inch of skin. Their beauty was spiritual, but it still came with sacrifice. Even to be unseen, a woman had to perform, had to prove. The body was never just a body. It was a symbol, a lesson, a caution. And as long as others looked at it, judged it, wrote about it, it was never fully hers. And yet, women persisted. Quietly, cunningly. They found joy in stolen moments, in messy hair braided quickly, in laughter that escaped at night, in berries that stained their lips, in dances in the kitchen when no one watched. Not rebellion relief. Small rebellions repeated became memory, became legacy. In some regions, folk beauty survived. Red ribbons in the hair, wildflowers behind the ear, skin warmed by sun, not powder. These girls were called rustic, common, but they carried something free, something old, something stronger than trends. And still, the court did not stop. Standards evolved with rulers. One king loved full cheeks. His mistresses padded theirs with wool. One queen painted blue veins on her chest to look more delicate. Her ladies copied. One nobleman wrote a treatise declaring women's feet should be small, arched, high, so shoes were remade, heels raised. Walking grew painful, but beautiful for a moment, until the next ruler came, and the next trend, always shifting, never enough. And through it all, girls watched, listened, learned. They whispered beauty secrets by firelight, hid ointments in drawers, practiced smiles in mirrors, and slowly, painfully, perfectly became the women they were told to be. Tonight, you do not have to perform. You do not have to reflect anyone's wish. Let the palace dissolve. Let the portraits fade. Let the rules drift away like dust. You are not in a court. You are not an ideal. You are only yourself, whole, quiet, breathing. We will continue again soon, but for now, just rest. There is a girl sitting beside a window. Her feet do not touch the ground. Her hair is tied back with a simple ribbon. She is no older than 6. In her lap, a small mirror. It is not a toy. Her mother gave it to her that morning with a soft instruction. Watch yourself. Practice stillness. Learn your angles. The child nods, obedient, curious. She holds the mirror up and studies her own reflection not with vanity, but with duty. This is the beginning. In medieval homes, daughters were not simply raised. They were prepared. Prepared for eyes, for judgment, for roles assigned before they knew the words to describe them. Beauty was not praise, it was a project. Girls learned to walk without sound, to smile without showing teeth, to lower their eyes when greeted. They were told that loud laughter was unladylike, that swinging their arms while walking made them appear wild. Even joy had rules. Meals became lessons. Sit upright, take small bites. Do not let the soup touch your lips. Do not slouch. Do not look around. Even the act of chewing could be corrected. Over time, correction became instinct. A girl didn't have to be told twice, she memorized the rules like prayers. The household tools became training instruments. Wooden combs taught patience. Heavy dresses taught endurance. Pins taught care. A dropped ribbon was scolded. A wrinkled sleeve was noticed. A smudge on the cheek meant someone was not paying attention. The mirror was the ultimate test. Every morning, every evening, what did the mirror see today? And what should it see tomorrow? Mothers taught daughters with glances, with sighs, with silent nods of approval or disappointment. Words were used sparingly, but the meaning was always clear. A loose braid was laziness. A loud voice was danger. A girl's reputation was tied to her appearance, and so was her family's honor. At festivals, young girls were dressed in finer linen. Their cheeks were pinched for color. They were told to sit in rows, to smile at the right moments, to look interested but not eager. Boys ran, played, shouted. But girls watched, sat, waited. Their games mimicked adulthood, pretending to brush each other's hair, pretending to sew, pretending to be chosen. Even in play, they were performing. The training intensified with age. At 9 or 10, lessons shifted to posture, to voice, to the art of disappearing and reappearing only when called. A girl was a shadow always present, rarely noticed, unless wrong. At 12, new rituals began. Skin was to be softened with oils. Hair brew, shed 100 strokes each night. Eyelashes lengthened with soot or trimmed for neatness. Forehead hair plucked to raise the brow in ideal shape of beauty. The pain was minimal, they were told, and pain was part of it. Girls learned to endure before they understood why. Because beauty was not for them, it was for the room, for the future, for the man they had not yet met, for the family name, because the prettier the girl, the better the match. And a better match meant a better life for everyone. Education was filtered through this lens. Reading was allowed if it did not interfere with appearance. Arithmetic was useful only for managing a household. Writing, perhaps, but delicately, so as not to strain the fingers. A scholar was admirable in a man. In a girl, it was a risk. Too many thoughts might disturb the face. Too much expression might be misread. So silence was safety. A girl who listened more than she spoke was praised. A girl who asked questions was warned. They called it grace, poise, discipline. But it was always about beauty, about readiness. Daughters of nobles were trained to curtsy with precision, their eyes fixed on a distant point, never the floor, never the man. Their backs never bent, their hands never clenched. The dress must not twist, the shoes must not scuff. And when they walked, it must seem like floating. Seamstresses came to homes with cloth samples, not just for dresses, but for lessons. What colors suit her skin? What neckline flatters her shoulders? What veil hides the ears but shows the cheekbones? Girls were measured like garments, altered, styled, presented, and praised when they fit the image, not of themselves but of someone else's expectation. And still, they were children, with dreams, with secrets, with favorite songs. But even dreams had to be quiet. Even songs had to be hummed behind closed doors, because childhood was brief, and beauty did not wait. It demanded attention, constant, relentless. And if a girl grew into a woman without mastering it, she was called plain, unfortunate, left behind. So mothers hurried, teachers corrected, mirrors reflected, until the girl knew every flaw, every virtue, every angle of her face. Not because she loved herself, but because she had to. Because in a world that judged by sight, survival meant preparation. Tonight, as you lie back and breathe, know that you are not preparing, not performing. There is no mirror here, no lesson, no judgment, only rest. Deep, gentle, free. Let the ribbons fall. Let the silence hold you. Let your breath become slower, softer. We will continue soon. She is 13 now, maybe 14. Her body is changing. Not rapidly, not drastically, but just enough for others to notice. And noticing becomes everything. When she enters a room, heads tilt. A glance exchanged. A whisper behind a sleeve. She's grown. She's becoming a woman. Her features are softening. Praise is subtle, but so is scrutiny. Her walk is watched. Her laugh is judged. Every choice she makes, where to stand, how to sit, when to speak is weight, she feels it. In her spine, in her chest, in her stomach, which flutters not with joy, but with pressure. Somewhere between childhood and womanhood, she has learned to monitor herself. The mirror is no longer just a tool. It's a companion, a measuring stick, a silent critic. Every morning, she checks her reflection. Are my cheeks too round? Is my skin pale enough? Is my gaze gentle today? She has learned to hide blemishes with powder, to braid her hair with care, to remove tiny hairs from her temples with thread. The rituals comfort her, but only because she fears what happens if she stops. Girls around her do the same, some better, some worse. They do not speak of it openly, but the competition is always present. At markets, at gatherings, at church. The eyes of mothers compare. The eyes of men linger. She learns to notice who is watched and why. Is it her veil? Her voice? Her waist? Slowly, she understands. Beauty is currency. Beauty opens doors, keeps peace, draws favors, avoids punishment. She doesn't call it that. She doesn't call it anything. She simply lives it. Her friends become fewer or quieter. Some are sent away to marry. Some retreat into silence. The ones who remain become shadows of themselves, smiling too often, or not at all. One plucks her eyebrows raw, another fasts too long, and no one says a word. The adults call it growing up, maturity, but it's just conformity. Sacrifice disguised as grace. Her lessons continue. Sewing, spinning, scripture, but also how to pour wine without spilling, how to look pleased without looking eager, how to dance the slow dances but decline the fast ones. Men don't like loud girls. Men don't like clever girls. Men like mystery. The instructions never stop. Even silence is scripted. One day, a woman visits the house, an aunt, or a family friend. She smiles at the girl and says, "You're becoming quite the beauty." It sounds like kindness, but it changes something. Now, the girl must protect this beauty, maintain it, justify it. And any misstep, any clumsy gesture, any raised voice, any dirt on her chemise a threat to that title. The title is fragile, it can be lost. And if it's lost, who will notice her then? The shift is subtle. Her spine straightens more often. Her hands become still. She nods more, speaks less. Her thoughts remain but stay locked behind her eyes. She wants to read more, run more, ask more, but she knows better. Better to remain pleasing, predictable, beautiful. Her room becomes her sanctuary. In the evening, she unties her hair, lets it fall, brushes it slowly, listens to the quiet, the tick of the fire, the hum of wind through stone walls. In this silence, she wonders, is this what she wanted? Did she choose this, or did it choose her? No answer comes, only stillness. Her hands move automatic folding linens, straightening the hem of tomorrow's dress, dabbing rosewater on her wrists. Preparing, always preparing. She thinks of her younger self, mirror in hand, eyes wide, waiting to be told what to do. Now, no one needs to tell her. She knows. The rules live in her bones. The expectations breathe with her. She dreams of a world where a girl can laugh loudly, stumble on purpose, forget the mirror. But when she wakes, she adjusts her posture again, smiles again, applies the powder again, because freedom, for now, is a story, and she is living a different one. She sees her reflection one last time before sleep, not with pride, not with disdain, just with familiarity. Like a mask she wears so well, she's forgotten where her face ends and the mask begins. But tonight, she lets it fall, just for a moment. She lies down, hair loose, arms open. The room is dark. The house is quiet. No lessons remain. Only breath. Let your breath join hers. Slow, gentle. No mirrors here. No eyes. Just rest. Let go of the posture, the smile, the performance. You are not being watched. You are only being, and that is enough. She is a woman now, not just in age, but in rhythm. The rhythm of her days, the rhythm of her obligations, the rhythm of her thoughts, which move quietly, steadily like a river beneath ice. Her beauty is no longer potential, it is presentation, maintained with care, wrapped in linen, draped in expectation. She wakes early, not out of restlessness, but habit. Her hands move to the same motions as yesterday. The comb through her hair, the cloth to her skin, the modest pin at her collar. It is automatic, thoughtless, not because she doesn't care, but because it has become part of her. Like breathing, like blinking. Her reflection offers no surprises. She knows what she will see. She ensures it. The house stirs slowly. Other women emerge, all performing the same rituals, each with slight variations, a different braid, a softer tone. But the rules are still visible woven into every gesture, every glance. At breakfast, there is polite conversation, measured words, no loudness, no chewing too quickly. The younger girls observe, mimic, learn. She sees them watching. She remembers being them, and so she corrects gently. Sit straighter. Lower your eyes. Don't tilt your head that way. She speaks with kindness, but behind that kindness is a lineage. Of mothers, of grandmothers, of centuries. Each one passing down instructions, like heirlooms. Beauty is not just an aesthetic, it is a system, a means of movement, a path to security, a way to avoid shame. In gatherings, she is complimented on her modesty, her skin, her grace. She thanks them, smiles. She does not flinch. She does not roll her eyes. She has learned. And though a small part of her wonders whether they see her or just the costume she wears, she silences that voice. There is no place for rebellion here, not outright. Not if you want peace. Some women did rebel once. She remembers. Or was told. The aunt who refused to marry. The cousin who refused to cover her hair. The widow who spoke too much. Their stories were always followed by a sigh. A shake of the head. Such a shame. She could have had a good life. She brought it on herself. The moral was always clear. Do not deviate. Do not challenge. Do not stand out for the wrong reasons. And so she conforms. But with style, she learns the subtle power of color. The suggestion of gold at the edge of a sleeve. The way a scarf can frame the face. These are not just choices, they are strategies. Beauty, once an expectation, becomes her tool, her armor, her language, but still not her own. Even her beauty is spoken for. A man once told her she looked like a painting. She thanked him, but in her mind she wondered, whose painting, whose frame, whose wall? Later, in her room, she undressed slowly. The cloth peeled away like petals. She studied herself, not to admire, but to remember that beneath the veils and paint and posture there was still a person, tired, strong, soft, entire. But those moments were rare, fleeting, quickly replaced by why duties, a knock at the door, a task to complete, a dress to sew, a child to quiet. The world moves quickly, and beauty, like time, must be kept. So she keeps it, one braid at a time, one glance, one silence. She is admired, but admiration is a cage, made of compliments, applause, and responsibility. If she is beautiful today, she must be beautiful tomorrow, and the next, and the next. Aging is not allowed, not without apology. Flaws are not allowed, not without remedy. Rest is not allowed, not without guilt. And so she maintains, even when it hurts, even when it wearies, even when no one is looking, because someone always might be. And yet she is not bitter, not entirely. There is pride, a quiet pride in the way she moves, the way she controls the space around her, the way others defer. She has learned to speak without speaking, and sometimes that is enough. At night, she sits by the fire. Her daughters sleep nearby. She watches them, sees herself in their faces, wonders what they will carry, what they will reject, what they will endure. She does not speak her doubts. She tells them they are lovely, that they must stay lovely, that they must be careful. Because the world is not kind to women who are not lovely, not in the way it wants. She wishes she could tell them more, but she has no language for it, only experience, only example. So she hands them a brush, a mirror, a ribbon, and the cycle continues, not out of malice, but memory, because she too was handed these things, and told it was love. Tonight she lies down, her hair unbound, her face bare, the mirror turned away. In the dark she breathes, deep, slow, honest. No performance, no smile, just the sound of her breath. Let your breath match hers. Let the expectations dissolve. Let the mirror fade. You are not being prepared, not being watched, not being measured. You are only resting, and that is sacred. Let it hold you. Let it keep you. Let it remind you that beyond beauty, beyond history, beyond all the stories told to control there is still you. Whole, enough, and free. She is of marrying age now. No one says it, but everything begins to orbit around it. Her family becomes more careful with her presentation. Her mother reminds her more often to mind her speech. Her father watches the men who speak to her. Her aunt visits with veils. Her uncle sends small tokens from town, fine combs, rose oil, satin laces. The message is clear. She is now a possibility, a prospect, a name on a list, a face to be considered. She still dreams at night sometimes of running barefoot through the orchard or reading poems aloud in the sun, but in the day she must be poised. She sits straighter now, her voice lowers. Her hands stay folded. Visitors arrive. Some on business, some on invitation. She listens from the next room, hears their words, their laughter, their pauses. And later, someone always asks, did he see her? Did he mention her? What did he think? Because what he thinks matters. His name matters, his land, his coin, his reputation. But she must be beautiful enough to deserve him. Not too bold, not too plain, not too clever, not too cold. Her beauty must promise warmth, fertility, obedience, softness. She must look like someone who would never raise her voice at dinner, who would never leave the house without permission, who would never question the numbers in the ledger. She must look the way tradition expects. And so, she is trained. In silence, in subtlety, in self-erasure. It is not punishment, it is preparation. A well-meaning cousin tells her, you only get one chance to impress. Another says, it only takes one man to change your life. She nods, smiles, but inside something curls tight. She is not choosing, she is being chosen. And the criteria is not her soul. It is her symmetry, her youth, her hips, her skin, her reputation. One suitor arrives. He is older. His eyes rest too long on her. His words are generous. His gifts more so. He has land, horses, influence. Her family is pleased. She is not, but she does not say so. She knows how stories go. She has seen other girls protest, cry, plead, and still be wed. Because comfort, security, status, these are not small things. These are everything in a world where women must be protected, owned, provided for. She wonders if the man sees her, truly sees her, or only the surface she has polished so carefully. The hair curled just so, the cheeks pink from pinching, the hands small, uncalloused, the smile that hurts her jaw. A few days pass. Another visitor comes. This one is younger, quieter. He speaks less, looks less. She is curious. But no one pays him much mind. His holdings are small, his prospects uncertain. Her beauty is considered wasted on him. That is the word they use, wasted. As though her face were currency, and only the wealthiest deserve to spend it. Her heart stirs, briefly, but she buries it. She has been taught well that love is a luxury, that beauty must be used wisely, that marriage is not romance, but transaction. Her value lies in how she enhances a man's status. A beautiful wife means better negotiations, better alliances, a smoother social climb. Men parade their wives like possessions, and she must be the kind men envy, not the kind they listen to. One night, she overhears her father saying, "She's our finest chance." And though he means well, the words feel heavy, not like pride, like pressure, like weight she cannot set down. A week later, the older suitor returns. Offers are made. Agreements discussed. She is summoned. She bows. She nods. She smiles. Her voice trembles, but no one notices. Or perhaps they pretend not to. The papers are prepared. Her mother helps her pack. Her sisters cry. But it is done with ceremony, with tradition, with the same careful hands that once brushed her hair and taught her to curtsy. She rides away in a carriage lined with lace. Her dress is perfect, her skin glows. The village watches her go, and all they see is success. A beautiful girl, married well, a future secured. No one sees the silence in her eyes, the stillness in her hands, the breath she keeps holding. Because beauty, in this world, is not a gift. It is a debt, one she must repay with her life. Let your eyes close now. Let your breath soften. You do not need to be chosen, not tonight. Not here. You do not need to perform, or impress, or please. You are already enough. More than enough. Let the carriage roll past. Let the whispers fade. Let the candlelight dim. This is your quiet space, your gentle moment, your freedom. Breathe into it and rest. Now she is married. Not just in title, but in rhythm. The house no longer smells like her childhood home. It smells of beeswax, linen, and the soft rot of old wood. Her husband rises early. He does not ask how she slept. She does not offer. Their words are few, their roles defined. She wakes with the sun, dresses in silence. Her new home is not unfamiliar, it is just not hers, and she knows better than to try to claim it. Instead, she blends. She learns the pattern of the rugs, the creak of the third stair, the way the servants avoid eye contact unless spoken to. She eats little, always just enough. The maids have noticed, but say nothing. A thin mistress is an elegant mistress. The mirror is smaller here, but more honest. It shows every change, the softness beneath her eyes, the tightness of her skin. She counts gray hairs with a sigh, then plucks them out. The dresses fit differently now. She adjusts the seams, the waistline, the neckline, always subtle, always proper. Because a married woman must not dress like a girl, but she must not age too soon either. There is a narrow window of perfection, and she walks its edge daily. Her husband does not compliment her, but he does not criticize either. That is something. That is enough. She hears the neighbor's wife was called neglected after her second child. She made the mistake of letting her sleeves stain, of letting her skin roughen, of speaking too freely in town. The whispers followed her for weeks. The husband, they said, had started to look elsewhere. That is how fragile it is. Beauty must not only be seen, it must be assumed, maintained, expected, even when no one is watching, because someone always might be. The local priest once preached about vanity, about humility, about the dangers of pride. And yet, at feasts, the same men praise the wives who shine, who glow, who wear their husband's wealth like a banner. The contradiction is not noticed. Or perhaps it is ignored. Her days are quiet, long, measured. She learns to make tinctures from herbs, to soak her hands in milk. To avoid the midday sun, her face must remain pale, her lips soft, her eyes lowered. She is no longer being chosen, but she must still be chosen daily. In small, invisible ways. A husband's glance at dinner, a servant's deference, a visitor's nod. The alternative is to fade, to be overlooked. And a wife who is overlooked is a wife who has failed. She writes letters now, not for passion, but for obligation. Thank you notes, invitations, polite inquiries, each word careful, each line graceful. Even her handwriting must be beautiful. Everything is performance, but not theatrical. No applause awaits her, only peace. Or its absence. Her husband sometimes brings guests, other men, other wives, and she studies them all. The wives with bright eyes and tighter waists, the ones with louder laughs. And she wonders, are they happier, or just better at pretending? She adjusts her posture, refills the wine, smiles without showing teeth. Later, when the guests have gone and the candles have burned low, she sits at her vanity, unpins her hair, wipes her cheeks, removes the illusion piece by piece, but not all of it, never all of it. Even alone, she cannot fully unbecome. Because beauty is not a mask, it is a discipline, a language, a weight. One night, she finds an old sketch of herself from before the marriage. The eyes a brighter, the jaw softer, the smile easier. She stares at it, not with regret, not with envy, but with distance, as if viewing another woman, one she once knew, one she once was. She places it back in the drawer, closes it gently, then lights a candle. The face in the mirror flickers, but remains. Let your breath mirror hers now, steady, soft, unnoticed. You are not required to please. Not here, not tonight. You are not being assessed, or measured, or maintained. You are simply breathing, simply existing, and that is enough. Let go of the ribbon, the comb, the gaze. Let go of the silence that dresses itself as grace. You do not need to smile, or pose, or endure. This is your rest. This is your stillness. Let it hold you, let it warm you, let it remind you that you were never made to be decoration. You were made to be. It happens gradually. A glance that used to linger now passes by. A greeting that once came with a smile now comes with formality. The mirror reflects not betrayal, but change. Honest change. The skin no longer taut, the lines no longer faint. Hair once dark like the earth now shows threads of snow. She does not mind them. At first, she welcomes them like old friends. Evidence of seasons lived, of laughter, of labor, of loss. But the world is not so kind. The market vendors no longer offer compliments with the apples. The neighbors' sons no longer tip their hats. Even her husband, though still dutiful, grows quieter, not cruel, just distant, as though the part of her that mattered most has begun to fade. She is still capable, still wise, still warm, but those things do not turn heads. Do not start conversations. Do not secure invitations. The younger women arrive now, with smooth foreheads and eager eyes. Their presence shifts the room, makes space fold toward them. She watches without bitterness, but with a dull ache, not of jealousy, of erasure. She is still here, but less so, somehow. The children are older, they ask for her less, seek her less. Her hands, once always needed, now rest idle. She finds them in her lap too often, finds herself listening more than speaking, observing more than participating. The world does not punish her, it simply forgets, and forgetting in some ways is worse. There was a time when she feared judgment. Now she fears invisibility. Her beauty, once cultivated with care, now draws silence, not disapproval, just absence. She walks through town and is not noticed, not admired, not acknowledged. She buys fabric not for dresses, but for blankets. Creams not for youth, but for comfort. Her rituals change, not less sacred, just quieter. She sings to herself now, low lullabies without audience. She tends the garden, speaks to the plants. They respond in their way. She has found peace in small things. The steam of tea, the weight of warm bread, the softness of old wool. These are the pleasures that remain, and perhaps they are truer than the ones before. Still, some nights she opens the wooden box at the foot of the bed. Inside, tokens, a ribbon, a dried flower, a ring that no longer fits. She holds them with reverence, not for what they meant to others, but for what they meant to her. Proof that she lived fully, that she was seen, that once the world reached for her, and now it does not. But she does not weep. She exhales, because there is relief in release. No more masks, no more performances. Just being, just breathing. The fire burns low. She sits beside it. The shadows play along the walls. Her face, half lit, carries every year with grace. She thinks of the girls now learning what she once knew. Thinks of how they paint their cheeks, press their curls, stand tall for approval. She wishes she could tell them this beauty, this fleeting currency will not buy you peace, not the kind that endures. She has earned that knowledge, and it is more valuable than any mirror's praise. Her beauty is not gone. It is simply no longer for display. It lives in the way she moves through silence, in the way she forgives, in the way she still notices the sunrise. Let your eyes grow heavy now. Let the world forget. You do not need to be remembered to be real. You do not need their gaze to have worth. You are not the lines on your face, or the stillness of your phone, or the quietness of your days. You are breath. You are memory. You are soul. That is enough. More than enough. Let the years fall away. Let the whispers hush. Let the candle burn down to its final glow. And rest. Rest deeply. Rest safely. Rest beautifully. He stands at the edge of the training yard. The cold bites his knuckles. The steel in his grip hums. Around him, other men swing, sweat, grunt. No one speaks of beauty here, but it lives in the silence. The expectations, unspoken yet carved deep. Broad shoulders, straight spine, jaw strong and square, scars in the right places. Too many and you're reckless, none at all and you're soft. A balance, a brutal aesthetic. A man's face must not be pretty. It must be firm, weathered, respectable. A narrow jaw invites mockery. A soft voice raises suspicion. Even the way one walks too quick, too light, too hunched can draw questions. He learns early to measure each step, to deepen his tone, to keep his gaze steady but not challenging. Strength is appearance, and appearance is strength. The nobles have their own kind of mirror, not made of glass, but of reputation. Of armor polished too well, of boots laced with vanity. Some admire the peacock knights with gilded hilts and curled hair. Others scoff. But all are watching, always watching. At feasts, he is not just a warrior. He is display. His tunic must fit, not hang, not strain. His beard, if worn, must be trimmed. Wildness is for outlaws. His hands must bear calluses, but not filth. He must look capable of both carving a stag and penning a treaty. A contradiction wrapped in linen. The poets sing of noble men with sunlit hair, ocean eyes, lion hearts. No one believes these men exist, but all secretly wish to resemble them, or at least not fall too far beneath them. The church preaches modesty, but the saints are painted handsome, serene, symmetrical. Even piety wears a face. In the village, boys notice early which men are praised and which are not. The tall, the straight-backed, the deep-voiced. The boys begin to mimic, even if it does not suit them. Even if it cracks something soft inside. He remembers being 10, standing beside his brother. His brother was smaller, gentler. He wept when the dog died. He sang to the chickens. The others teased him, called him maiden boy. His brother stopped singing, stopped crying, but they never stopped mocking. One day, he simply stopped speaking. Beauty in a man is a threat unless it is hard-edged, unless it is earned through danger, through blood, through labor. He still remembers the first time a woman called him handsome. He had not asked for it, but he wore it for days like borrowed armor. Then came the other comments. His jaw too narrow, his legs too thin, his nose too long. Beauty became a battlefield he did not volunteer for, and yet he could not retreat. In marriage, he is expected to look the part, strong enough to protect, calm enough to command. If he smiles too often, he is foolish. If he frowns too deeply, he is cruel. He must master the neutral face, the one that tells nothing, the one that says, "I am capable. Do not ask more." As he ages, the rules shift. Gray hair is not a flaw. It is distinction. Wrinkles around the eyes become wisdom. A curved back, however, is weakness. A limp, vulnerability. He wears his injuries with pride, but only the right ones. Only those earned honorably. His appearance must not ask for sympathy, only respect. His wife once asked if he ever felt beautiful. He laughed, said no man should. But that was not the truth. He had. Once. Briefly. In the quiet after a battle. When his face was clean. When the firelight made him look older, yet stronger. But the moment passed, as they all do. He sometimes sees boys now, trying to grow into the mold, lifting too much, speaking too loudly, fighting shadows. He wants to tell them, "You are already enough." But he knows the world would not agree, so he nods, offers advice, passes the burden along, not with cruelty, but with resignation, because men too are carved by the chisel of beauty, not with rouge and ribbons, but with silence and steel, and few ever notice the cracks beneath. Let the weight fall now. Let the armor clatter to the floor. You are not the curve of your shoulder, or the grit in your voice. You are not the scars you display or the ones you hide. You are the breath beneath it all, the softness you still protect. The boy who sang once, and may still. Let him breathe again. Let him rest. There is a room not large where decisions are made. The table is oak, the floor worn. Men sit around it. Some young, most not. Their hands are clasped, their eyes alert, their robes simple but clean. Among them sits a man named Edrin. He is not the most learned, nor the most forceful, but when he speaks, the others listen. They say it is his voice calm, clear, sure. But it is more than that. His face, weathered but firm, carries lines in all the right places. His hair, still dark, lends him presence. His jaw does not tremble. His brow does not furrow without cause. When he pauses, the silence feels intentional. People trust him, not only because of what he says, but because of how he looks when saying it. In this century, a man's appearance is not decoration. It is argument. A long nose suggests intelligence. A steady gaze suggests courage. A tall frame implies leadership. Narrow shoulders raise doubts. Crooked teeth stir discomfort. No one speaks of these things aloud, but they are noticed. A priest with gentle features draws more confession. A magistrate with clear skin earns fewer challenges. The halo of appearance surrounds authority. In monasteries, brothers whisper of Abbot Remy, not Beck awes of his sermons, but because his hands are elegant, his voice melodic, his walk graceful. They say holiness sits on his shoulders like sunlight. Others are skeptical, but they still look when he enters. Nobles know this too. They do not choose squires solely for skill. A well-shaped face can open doors, can gain favor at court, can suggest loyalty before it's tested. Edron remembers a time when he was passed over once, long ago, by a man who spoke with thunder but looked like thunder too. Harsh, unforgiving. The people turned from him. They craved not just guidance, but poise. Even among soldiers, there is calculation. Captains are not chosen only by strength. Their presence must rally others, inspire calm, instill discipline. A man whose face breaks easily under pressure will struggle to command. Beauty, in this world, is not softness. It is order, a visual shorthand for harmony. And yet, there are men who play against this, who bend perception. The shrewd will cultivate a certain ruggedness, a scar placed where it flatters, a beard trimmed just enough to look effortless. They learn what the people want to see, and they provide it. Not deceitfully, but strategically. A clean face in a time of dust is itself a message, an oath. In the chapel, candles flicker against stained glass. A boy kneels, watching the priest, not hearing the words, but seeing the stillness of his jaw, the gentle curve of his fingers as he blesses the bread. The boy will grow, will remember this, will think perhaps that faith wears a beautiful face, that the divine prefers symmetry. And so the cycle continues. Those deemed pleasing are elevated. Those who are not must shout louder, must prove more, must fight for what others receive silently. Edrin knows this. He has used it. He has worn his appearance like a second cloak. Not proud, not ashamed, just aware. He has walked into rooms where others braced for conflict and diffused it with a nod, a calm eye, a level tone. His face gave him entry. His words earned him stay. And still he wonders, who was overlooked in his stead? Who might have spoken wiser truths, but lacked the jaw for it? These questions hum quietly beneath the surface. Most days, he does not hear them, but some nights, they come, as he washes his face, as he trims his beard, as he prepares, again, to be seen. Beauty is not a sin, but it is a power, and power, even when silent, speaks. Let go of the mirror now. Let the candlelight soften every line. You are not what they see. You are not what they expect. You are the silence between words, the thought before speech, the peace after duty. That is enough. That is everything. There is a boy standing before a mirror that does not reflect. It is polished metal, uneven, blurred, but he stares anyway, trying to see what his father sees, what his grandfather once saw. He lifts his chin, lowers his brow, narrows his gaze, trying to find the man he is expected to become. His father stands behind him, silent. Judging? No, not allowed. But this silence carries weight. Not a critique, but a measure. The boy remembers how his father's boots struck the ground with certainty, how his shoulders filled doorways, how his jaw set like stone when he spoke to other men. That was what a man looked like. The boy, slight and unsure, tried to grow into that shape. He mimicked his father's walk, practiced the depth of voice, even copied the way he drank from a mug one hand, no hesitation. But the face in the mirror did not change. His cheeks stayed soft, his arms narrow, his eyes too wide, too thoughtful. He began to measure himself differently, not by kindness or cleverness, but by width, by sharpness, by stillness. When his uncle visited, the boy noticed how everyone listened to him. His beard was thick, his hands calloused, his laugh low and certain. No one interrupted. The boy counted the lines on his uncle's face and wondered when they would arrive on his own. Boys in the village joked with each other. They called one Princess for his long eyelashes, called another Piglet for his rounded belly. No one wanted those names. They learned to wear their faces like masks, hardened, distanced. The boy learned too, but he kept a secret. He sometimes wished he looked different, not because he hated himself, but because he wanted to be believed, to be seen not just as someone's son, but as someone worth hearing. The priests spoke of humility, of the soul's beauty. But even they tilted their heads when a child with clear eyes and even features entered the chapel. Beauty, even in boys, bought gentleness, affection, favor. A crooked tooth drew laughter, a lisp, ridicule, a lamp, avoidance. The boy had none of these, but he had a face that asked questions, that hesitated, and that too was punished. As he aged, he learned to use silence, to let others fill it, to nod instead of smile, to carry wood not because he had to, but because it changed how people saw his back, his shoulders, his worth. He remembers the first time he was called handsome by a girl. It felt like an anointing, like being granted permission to exist a little louder, a little taller, but it was fleeting. The next day, she praised another boy for being stronger. The measure shifted again. His father never said much, but once, after a long day, he placed a hand on the boy's shoulder and nodded. That nod was a cathedral. The boy kept it in his heart for years. Manhood was not given, it was earned. Through posture, through pain, through performance. And though his father never said he had to look a certain way, the boy saw which men earned his respect and which did not. Now the boy is grown. He has a son of his own. The child stares into the same warped mirror. He is not tall, not yet. His hair falls in odd directions, his teeth are uneven, but his eyes shine, curious, kind. The man wants to say, "You are already enough," but the world might not agree. So he teaches his son to stand straight, to speak clearly, to walk with purpose, but also to forgive his face, to wear it with grace, not apology. He tells him, "They will try to measure you, in inches, in weight, in scars, in silence. But remember, your breath matters more than your bones, your voice more than your chin, your joy more than your jaw." The boy listens. Some days he believes, Some days he forgets. The man understands. He too forgets. Sometimes he still studies his reflection, wondering if he has finally become the image his father once hoped for. But he has learned to step away from the mirror, to look at his hands instead, at what they've built, at who they've held, at how they tremble when they're tired, not because of weakness, but because of living. Let the line end here. Let the inheritance of sharp jaws and square shoulders break. Let softness bloom. Let the boy become what he chooses, not what the mirror demands. Breathe now. You are not the features they praised, nor the ones they ignored. You are the warmth between gestures, the quiet after laughter, the peace before dawn. That is enough. Sleep now. There is a woman in a tower. Her hair is long, her skin pale, her hands delicate. She waits. Not for freedom, not for justice, but for someone who will see her beauty and be moved by it. That is how the story goes. That is how many stories go. The tower changes. The kingdom varies. But the face remains. Clear, unblemished, serene. This is how good looks. That is the lesson. Children gather near the fire, eyes wide. They hear of queens with golden braids, of maidens with moonlit skin, of heroines whose beauty is proof of their purity. They also hear of witches, of hags, of women with hooked noses and yellow teeth, who mutter, who twist herbs, who curse. Their ugliness is not just appearance, it is judgment, it is warning. A girl with a crooked smile is not charming, she is suspicious. A boy with mismatched eyes is not special, he is marked. The stories do not say this outright, but they do not need to. The images speak first. A princess is not kind because she helps the poor. She is kind because she is beautiful, and beautiful because she is kind. It is a closed loop, a spell of perception. In monasteries, saints are painted with symmetrical faces, soft mouths, radiant eyes. Even when their bodies are broken, their beauty remains intact. Holiness is tidy. Even in suffering, even in death. Demons, by contrast, are twisted, horned, misshapen. They drool, leer, claw. Their malice is external. They are punished by their own appearance. And so children learn. Before they learn to write, before they learn to think, they learn to look and to judge. A nobleman commissions a mural. He wants Christ depicted not as he may have looked, but as the people will accept. Tall, luminous, unscarred. He is not trying to deceive. He is trying to inspire. But the message is received. The divine is clean, is perfect, is pleasant to the eye. Beauty becomes a virtue. Not a trait, but a testimony. The woman in the village who keeps to herself, if she is young and soft-faced, she is dreamy. If she is wrinkled and sharp-eyed, she is feared. The line between folklore and life is blurred. Men grow beards to appear wiser. Women pluck hairs to seem gentler. The face becomes a page, others read before they hear the voice. And when tales are passed on, they carry more than plot. They carry expectation that the hero will be fair, that the villain will be marred. That truth wears a pleasant shape. Even the language follows. Ugly becomes an insult not just of appearance, but of worth. Lovely becomes praise not just of form, but of spirit. The mirror becomes a confessional, a place where one seeks redemption not through prayer, but through cheekbones. The girl brushing her hair does not dream of deeds. She dreams of being seen, of being chosen. Because every tale she knows begins with a face, not a heart, not a mind, but a face. Priests say the soul has no shape, no gender, no face. But even in dreams, angels are drawn as flawless, and monsters as grotesque. The child who limps hears laughter, not because he is cruel, but because he breaks the pattern. The child with scars hides them, not because they hurt, but because they disrupt the story. We are all trying to fit the tale, to be the rescued, or the noble, or the worthy. And the first test is visual. In marketplaces, gossip flows. She looked like a saint, they say. He had the devil's grin. Crimes and kindnesses judged before they occur, based on bone, on skin, on symmetry. And yet, not all stories follow the path. Some tell of beasts who are kind, of crones who speak wisdom, of beauty that fades, and truth that remains. These stories are quieter, often forgotten, but they exist, like roots beneath stone, waiting. Breathe now. Let go of the tale. Let go of the image. You are not the drawing on the page. You are not the shape in the flame. You are the listener, the witness, the one who remembers the silence between words. That is enough. That is everything. Sleep now. There was a girl born with hair like threads of silver, though her parents were dark-haired and plain. The midwife crossed herself. Touched by angels, she whispered, but others were not so sure. A child so radiant must be marked, either for glory or for ruin. In villages where crops depended on favor and illness struck without warning, beauty became a sign not of luck, but of omen. A child with eyes too clear, skin too smooth, was watched carefully. Was she a gift? Or a warning? The girl grew, and with each passing year, her beauty deepened. Strangers stared too long. Mothers pulled their sons close. Men asked questions about her lineage, about her purity, about her silence. She did nothing wrong, but her face spoke louder than her words. It told a story she could not control, a tale of either divine favor or hidden sin. In churches, saints were often carved with serene expressions, perfect features. Their beauty was not vanity. It was proof. Proof of sanctity, of being chosen, of being set apart. But those carvings were of the dead. The living who looked too much like them were rarely trusted. Some said they were blessed. Others said they were witches in disguise. A man with golden curls and a noble jaw was praised until he refused a powerful woman's favor. Then whispers followed. Was he casting spells? Using beauty to seduce? To deceive? It did not matter that he prayed daily, that he gave alms. His face had betrayed him. The line between heaven and heresy was thin, and beauty, so often seen as a ladder to heaven, could also become a torch that lit the pyre. In taverns, stories were told of women whose beauty made men go mad, of maidens who never aged, of travelers who met someone too fair to be mortal and were never seen again. These tales were warnings wrapped in wonder. They taught listeners to be wary of the too beautiful, because behind beauty, there might be trickery, or worse truth. In royal courts, beautiful courtiers were prized. Until they weren't. A queen known for her beauty faced poison. A knight with a flawless face was accused of vanity, of arrogance, of seduction. The same features that earned him favor made him a threat. The same smile that opened doors became evidence. In a world ruled by fear of God, of disease, of the unknown, beauty became a contradiction. Desired, envied, feared. When a child was born too fair, villagers watched the weather. If a storm came, they blamed the child. If animals sickened, they whispered of curses. Beauty, they believed, must be balanced, with humility, with suffering, with silence. A woman too beautiful and too outspoken was called dangerous. A man too handsome and too quiet was called cursed. The body was not just flesh, it was message, a vessel of unseen forces, and so the beautiful learned to hide, to downplay, to disappear, or they were placed high, on pedestals where they could be admired but not touched, worshipped but not believed. The girl with silver hair walked carefully. She lowered her gaze. She never spoke first. She wore gray. She learned that safety lived in shadows, that every compliment could become a blade. That being seen was not always a blessing. She heard of another girl in another village, born with the same silver hair. They said she vanished, or was taken, or burned. The story changed with each telling, but always the beauty ended in silence or smoke. Priests preached that God made all in his image, but when a face shone too brightly, even they hesitated. Was it holiness or deception? Was it a test or a trap? The answers never mattered. only the gaze, only the fear. And so beauty was both door and dungeon, both light and fire, both miracle and mistake. The villagers kept their distance. They said they were being careful, but it was fear wrapped in reverence. The girl knew. She had seen it in their eyes and in the mirror. The mirror told her nothing. It gave no answers, only questions, only the echo of 1,000 gazes and the weight of 1,000 stories. She wanted to be ordinary, but the world would not let her. Because beauty, once named, becomes myth, and myths are not allowed to be human. Breathe now. Let the silver fade. Let the faces blur. You are not their story. You are the silence beneath it. The pause between judgments. The softness that never needed proof. Sleep now. There was a time when beauty could save you, or so they said. A well-placed curl might spare you the whip. A delicate hand might delay judgment. A soft face might soften wrath. But that time was not as kind as it sounds. Because to be beautiful meant to be watched, to be weighed, to be tested, and often to be broken. In the halls of castles, noble daughters were taught the art of stillness. How to hold their breath when turning. How to look down without slouching. How to smile without showing hunger or pain or thought. Their faces were their fortunes, but fortunes come with risks. A girl too lovely was bartered like silk. A girl not lovely enough was forgotten, or worse, remembered for the wrong reasons. A birthmark, a mole, a brow too heavy. Each became a blemish on her worth, and so mirrors were not tools. They were altars, where girls prayed for symmetry, for whiteness, for smoothness, and when they did not find it, they learned to fear their own reflection. In monasteries, monks wrote of heavenly beauty, of Mary's perfect gaze, of saints so pure their faces glowed. But these images were not gifts. They were goals, unreachable, punishing. A woman in the countryside tried to match the paintings. She soaked her skin in vinegar. She powdered her face with lead. She avoided sun, laughter, rest. And still she failed. Because the standard moved. It always moved. One century praised thinness, another roundness. One decade loved curls, the next braids. And always, always, the expectation was more than flesh. It was behavior. A woman must be lovely, but not vain. Attractive, but not aware. Desired, but not desiring. It was not enough to be beautiful. One had to be beautiful in the right way. And even then, approval was borrowed, not owned. Men, too, were judged. A man too fair was mocked. Too rugged, and he was beastly. Too tall, and he was slow. Too short, and he was dismissed. And if he showed care for his looks, he was ridiculed. If he didn't, he was scorned. The line between virtue and vanity was drawn by others, never by the self. And so people perform beauty like a ritual, not to celebrate, but to survive. In portraits, the faces are calm, the eyes steady, but behind the paint is hunger, fear, silence. We do not see the tightening corsets, the plucked brows, the bruised feet. We see only the surface. And call it grace, call it elegance, call it history. But history has breath, has wounds, has echoes. In tales passed down, we remember the beautiful. Helen, Guinevere, Isolde, but we do not remember their voices, only their faces. And so we repeat the cycle. We tell new stories with new names, but the gaze remains the same, searching, measuring, wanting. And yet, there is another history, a quiet one. It lives in the letters never sent, in the songs never written, in the reflections turned away from, in the softness of skin not judged, not compared, not fixed. It lives in the moments when a woman wiped paint from her cheeks and finally saw her own face, when a man let his hair grow wild and felt the wind for the first time, when a child with crooked teeth smiled anyway. This history has no statues, no paintings, but it has warmth and truth and freedom. You do not need to match a saint. You do not need to resemble a queen. You are not a page in a book. You are the breath between lines, the silence between bells. You are allowed to be real, to be tired, to be soft. Let the standards fall now. Let the weight lift. You are not a mirror. You are not the sum of gazes. You are not what they called you. You are what you remember, what you dream, what you feel in the quiet. Rest now. Let the stories fade. Let the faces blur. There is no one watching, only you. And that is enough. Sleep now.